Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And you have myself, Stephen George. Very good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 6th of January 2012 and Steve says that I have a very husky voice tonight.
Sexy, you say.
Sexy, I say. Okay, you say
okay.
Something wrong with it there. I don't know. I'll have to start taking some tablets for it, I think. Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We have people on the chat facility already. And it's a good few people on there chatting away. Right, before we get into anything, our guest tonight, just to start off, is a lady called Heather Martin, who is running a campaign against Kevin and Annett, who we've had on the show. So we're going to be bringing Heather in shortly. We just have a few things to go through first. And that will be the communication channels for us, Steve.
Absolutely. Communication channels are as follow: info@oymireland.com for your emails throughout the show and also throughout the week if you need to contact us with any information. We also have the guest book on the website as well, where you can leave a message there for this generation and for future generations. We also have the chat facility on the website as well. If you just navigate to OYMIreland.com, up in the top left-hand corner, you will see live chat. Just click the big button. You can log in with your real name or a pseudonym, and you can join in the chat. You can also post questions there to our special guests this evening. And finally, if you're near a telephone line, you can
give us a call on 046 927 1212.
04692711212. If you're ringing in from outside Republic of Ireland, it'll be 00353 in front of that number. Alan.
Steve.
Alan.
I believe you have the unscripted script.
Oh yes, the unscripted script. Mm-hmm.
Back to you.
Yes. Okay. And okay, I'm not going to go down that road. No jokes, no jokes. Okay, yeah, we just want to touch base on the bumper sticker campaign. Yes, the bumper sticker campaign to put stickers on your bumper. Your car bumper, that is, or your rear window of your car, or anywhere you like to stick them, we don't mind. We're nearly there. We are nearly there with our target. We just need a little bit of a push. If anyone has a few pence or a few cent or a couple of euro or dollars or whatever currency you deal with, if you have some that's burning a hole in your pocket, why not put it to good use? And all donations graciously accepted for this bumper sticker campaign. You want to get the bumper stickers. It's the OYM I'm Awake sticker campaign, and we're nearly there. So we just need a little bit of a push. As we always say, if you don't have any money, and we do know that austerity has crippled a lot of people financially. So we do have adverts on the website. So if you just kind of see an advert there that tickles your fancy, all you have to do is with a click of a mouse, just click the advert, and that's pretty much all you need to do. And because it's this kind of Google Ads thing, it means that every time you click an ad, we get a couple of cents thrown our way. Although, every little helps, as they say. And it's not that we're trying to sell anything. We kind of do this for the love of it. We don't have any items to sell per se. So if you just click on an ad, we will get a couple of cents, and it all goes into the bumper sticker campaign.
Brilliant stuff. We're nearly there. So if we can. Just a little bit more push, and it'll be fantastic. We get them stickers and then
just like the doctor saying to the woman just about to give birth. Just a little more.
Just a little more.
Just push.
Just a
one
little
more
more.
push.
That's just a little more, except a lot less painful.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. On the January the 12th, United We Strike Radio Marathon. Don't forget that it's going to be on a Saturday. If you go over to unitedwestrike.com or unitedwewin.me, the new website is there. The information's on there. So you can find us there. We'll probably be either doing some hosting, and we'll be on there as well, and doing some production with the United We Strike team. So if you can pop over there on January 12th, that'd be fantastic. Now, we got an email in from one of our listeners, and they told us a thing about a nudge. And I'm just going to read out what the information is all about. It says the nudge unit. There's a team in the UK called the nudge unit. And it says the nudge unit has always has ways to make you pay. Now, gets very sinister when you say ways to make you pay. Now, this is obviously over in the UK, but you can probably guarantee it's going to be over here as well. It says senior figures in Downing Street claim to have evidence that billions, not millions, can be saved without increasing taxes, passing new laws or introducing yet more regulation. The trick, they say, lies in nudge theory. The idea that small changes in how choices are presented can have a big impact on people's behaviour. The theory is not new and has long been dismissed by many both inside and outside Whitehall as a gimmick of the too good to be true variety. But now, the tiny team in Number 10's 2-year-old behavioural insights team
Put your teeth back in. Instead of saying
also known as the nudge unit. I'm going to leave my teeth down. Also known as the nudge unit, reckon they have amassed enough evidence to persuade the rest of the government to start adopting the methods. They say it's a tipping point. Now, some of the work done by the nudge unit seems impressive enough. For example, there is currently some 500 million in unpaid fines in the UK. Trials show that if letters are sent demanding that people pay up, only 5% do so. If text messages are sent, 20% pay. If a text is sent to you by name, warning that the bailiffs are coming, it rises to a third. These strategies are tried out in the southeast and will now go countrywide, bringing substantial savings in the cost of bailiffs, who tend to take people's TVs and furnitures and sell them for next to nothing. So there are gains all around. They also take non-payment. Let's take non-payment of car tax. Initial letters bring in 11% response, but if people are sent pictures of their cars minus the tax disc, repayment goes up threefold. So they're using, the nudge unit are using psychological techniques to increase the money coming in. So just be aware of that. So obviously they're going to be planning that, and no doubt it will be passed over to our government over here, and they'll be using the nudge unit over here to do the same thing, because they can't keep squeezing. You see, the problem is they can't keep taking taxes all the time because people don't have the money. You don't have the money anyway. So they're just going to use the nudge unit to try and get money off people, like fines, TV licenses and all that kind of stuff. So there might be a bit of a squeeze on over there in the UK, and as I say, no doubt it's going to happen over here. So if you want to check it out, it was in the newspaper. Go to Google and type in nudge unit or nudge unit, and you should be able to find it on Google.
So basically, if they send you out a letter, this is what I'm getting now. I know you sent me the email, but as I said before you came on live, I didn't actually have a chance to read it. So they send you a text message, and if they send you a text message, it kind of raises things that they will get paid. But that brings me to an issue. I think I spoke about this one before. The last time we had a meeting with our local bank, it was in relation to the mortgage, and I remember the lady in question asking me some questions, and I paused and thought about each question before I answered. And when she asked me for my mobile number, I said, well, why would you need that? And she says, in case we need to contact you. And I says, well, sure, if you need to contact me, sure, the old-fashioned way, do it by letter, because, it's much, much better. And I have a piece of paper then that I can use if necessary. Well, we just prefer to contact you by phone or text. And I says, no. Well, I don't think I'll give you my mobile number. And I think I told you before as well. Her whole demeanour changed. Oh, you're refusing to give us your number. I says, I'm not refusing to give anything, but why do you need it? And she just, that was it. Like, once I refused to give it, well, she wasn't getting it anyway. I said, I'm sorry, miss. I said, my mobile number is reserved for friends and family, and that's it. So, obviously we have to be very careful now who we give our mobile phone numbers to, because, we could be getting texts from people who want to try and extort money from us.
Yeah. And obviously what they're doing is target marketing. They're doing the same thing with these fines. They're going to target the individual to a level that you really feel that you have to pay it, or they're going to be, Big Brother's going to be coming and knocking on your door. So just be careful with that one and watch out for it. Steve, how's your week?
I thought you'd never ask. It's been fine. It's nothing special. I think as I said to you yesterday when we hooked up, it's pretty much been the tail end of Christmas, kind of just focusing on family and that kind of thing, and I haven't really been I haven't done too much, and I'm hand on heart, I'm embarrassed to say I haven't been doing a lot to try and save the world or put the world to rights this week. And I have my excuse because the little babby, the little bundle of joy is still keeping me awake at night, and that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. But no, unfortunately, as I say, I do still have a few things that I need to update myself on, and there's a few screens still open on the PC at home that I just haven't had a chance to get back to it. So I do apologise, and I will have all my homework done for next week.
Well, look, you got a new baby, and you're busy, and you're working and everything else. I mean, it's understandable. You know.
If you hear the thud during the show, just poke me with a stick. I'll probably have fallen asleep with the sleep
worries.
deprivation. But yeah, how was your week?
Okay, well, I've had a bit of a busy week, and I just quickly, I'm not going to go massively into detail, but just a couple of things I want to touch base on. I've been looking at 3D printing and the pros and cons of 3D printing. For people who don't know about this, there are printers out there now. We've had the technology for a good 20, 30 years, but they're only now becoming more commercial. And you can actually print in 3D. Yes, 3D. You can go and get your CAD software, and you can actually print out an object in 3D. If you don't believe me, go to Google, go to YouTube, and type in 3D printing, and you'll see it all. Fantastic stuff. And so I was thinking, if we got our hands on a 3D printer, how could we use it for things in the truth movement? You know, I mean, surely if we could produce 3D objects and pass them out, it's going to be cheaper than getting them manufactured. Maybe, I don't know. So, answers on the postcard, as they used to say in the old days.
Answers on the €20 now.
Send us an email. If you have any ideas for 3D, what could you print in 3D for the truth movement that you could be either give away free or for a small nominal fee that could, you know, for people, I don't know. Any ideas? Have a look at the 3D printing anyway. I found it quite interesting.
Any word on how much these 3D printers actually cost? I'd say they're expensive.
I'd say, you know, average price now, 3D printing is about £1,000, about 1,000. We have somebody phoning in. Hang on a minute, we'll take this caller there for a minute.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Wow. This must be a call in from the outer realms of space, the final frontier.
Hello, are you there, caller? Nope. Oh,
no. Okay.
It's engaged there.
We do apologise. Someone did try to ring in, and I'm not kind of sure what happened there, but maybe if you would like to try again.
Yeah, if you just want to hang on before you call in again, because we haven't got the guest in yet, and we can call in when the guest is on. That's really weird why you went like that. Very strange. Okay, we have to check that out.
Unless it was a call from space.
It could be. Right, just something else. There is an email going around from a company, but from a group or a person who, the title of the emails are Federation Resistance, Global Electronic Harassment Opposition Party. Okay? And it's got to do with, they purport to be representing targeted individuals, and they want to get funding. And they're saying that certain groups are supporting them, like Jesse and Lars from the ICCAT.org organisation. I think that's their organisation. I always get them ICC thing wrong, but you know, Jesse Beltran and Lars Judgard that we had on the show. There's a few. This organisation is claiming that they're supported, and OYM does not support them either. It's the Federation Resistance Global Electronic Harassment Opposition Party. They're claiming that Lars and Jesse are part of the CIA or some government organisation. So there is more sinister things going on with this group, by the way. I can't talk about it because there's a few things happening at the moment. All I'm going to say is that we are not attached to them. We don't endorse them. I need to do Lars or Jesse. And it's got to do with targeted individuals. So just bear that in mind. I'll just give you the name again. Federation Resistance Global Electronic Harassment Opposition Party. We've asked them to remove our email off their mailing list, and they refuse to do it, and they keep sending us emails. Okay, so something to bear in mind. Okay, now, last thing before we get our guest in is I just want to talk quickly about consumer rights. This week I have been up and down the wall and dealing with corporate companies, Aircom and Vodafone in particular. And there was two instances with customer service. Unbelievable. Aircom first. Okay, everybody know who Aircom is. It's our national telephone provider. And I actually don't touch Aircom at all. I don't go near them whatsoever because I know they're incompetent. And I'm speaking from personal experience. That this is just my own personal experience, and they were, in what I asked them to do at the time, they were completely incompetent. So I don't actually deal with Aircom anymore. The issue I had during the week was a family member who, again, all she did was move house from one house to another. Gave them 5 weeks' notice, plenty of time, and they were incompetent, and they didn't even bother. They couldn't manage it. I got on the phone, spoke to about 7 people, 7 different departments, and I got hung up on by one of the departments as well. So needless to say, her kids went through Christmas without being able to access the internet and all that kind of stuff, Xbox Live, and you know what kids are like. So we got a phone call after the Christmas from Aircom saying, how can we help you? So after 24 years of being a customer of Aircom, my this family member has decided to go off and go with another company. And we actually expressed their disgust with Aircom and the service. So to be honest with you, I don't think Aircom will have long to live. Maybe, I don't know. According to inside information, anyway, it's the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, you know. So very bad, very bad customer service from Aircom. So shame on you, Aircom. But there you go. What will happen is customers move away from Aircom. Aircom don't get any business, so they make redundancies, and people are let go, and then all of a sudden they can't pay the mortgage. And I've kind of expressed that to a few people in Aircom, saying how valuable customer service is. But they obviously don't get it, or they don't care. But they'll be moaning quick enough when they get made redundant and they can't pay the mortgage. But there you go. That's just the way it is. You know, I mean, customer service is very important. Vodafone, they were selling a product. I was getting a late Christmas present of a mobile phone from my partner, and she went into a Vodafone store in Dublin and specifically requested that, does this phone have NFC, which is near field communication on the phone. And she was told, and she asked him 3 times, and her friend was there, and she asked him, are you sure this has NFC, as in she can buy it and take it home and I can start using it straight away? And they said, yes, you can do that, no problem at all. So she got the phone, brought it home to me. I looked at the phone, I thought, no, this doesn't have NFC in it. But I gave it the benefit of the doubt. I powered it up and went to the menu to activate NFC, and lo and behold, guess what? I wasn't there. So she brought it back to the shop the next day, and the guy in the shop, in the Vodafone shop, said, oh yeah, NFC won't be available till March, and it's on the 4G network. And she said, well, why didn't you tell me that the day I was planning to buy it? Why wasn't I told that? That's mis-selling. That's mis-selling. You should have said that the day I was going to buy it, and then I wouldn't have bought the phone. But maybe that's why they didn't say it, because if they did say it, they knew she wouldn't have bought it. So I went down to Dublin on the Friday, all ready for a big argument with Vodafone, because trying to get money off a corporate company, trying to get a refund off a corporate company, is really like trying to get a child off a social worker, near impossible. Okay. So I went in ready. I had all my consumer rights and everything else, and I met a really nice chap in this Vodafone shop, and I explained to him the situation. I didn't go in all guns blazing. I went in and explained the situation, and he was very nice. He said, I agree with you. Their trading standards really, they really need to be contacted, because Vodafone are mis-selling the item. They're saying, and I actually took a picture of the phone on display saying NFC enabled. It's not saying it's not available till March. So that is mis-selling items, and trading standards should be aware of that. So anyway, we did get a refund, but just to go through very quickly your consumer rights, that the item that you purchase has to be of merchantable quality. It must be of a reasonable and acceptable standard. Fit for purpose intended. It must fit for the purpose it was bought for. And the last one, which is very important, as described, it must match the description given verbally or in an advertisement. False or exaggerated claims must not be made by the retailer. Okay? The phone call I got from Vodafone the night before, I said, I want you to ring the shop and make sure that this is organised, a refund. And she said, oh, it's down to the manager's discretion. And I said, hang on a minute. The laws of the land supersede any terms and conditions of policy that Vodafone have. And you have to be aware, these companies, these corporate companies think that their terms and conditions are above the law of the land. That's why we have consumer rights. And that's why we have a constitution. So never let any corporate company turn around and tell you that their terms and conditions are above the laws of the land. And the last one, with a refund, don't be fobbed off with a credit note. It says here, if you opt for a refund, this can be in cash or by cheque, or the retailer can refund your credit or debit card account if you used one to buy the item. You do not have to accept a credit note or voucher as a refund, as they are not equivalent to cash. You can choose a refund instead. So know your rights, and if you have any issues, go to the Consumer Rights of Ireland website, print them out and bring them into the shop, which is what I did. Lucky enough, I didn't have to show him because the guy was aware and he agreed that they were mis-selling the actual product in Vodafone. Okay, so that's basically it. That's my soapbox experience. That's what I've been dealing with during the week. Aircom and Vodafone, corporate companies, not giving a damn about the customers. So I walk away and I don't give them the business. Simple as that. Okay, so but make sure you know your rights. Don't take these terms and conditions as they're above the law. They are not above the law. They're only a corporate company. Right, okay. That's my moaning done.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm off my soapbox. I'm packing it away. Right, okay. Without further ado, we're going to bring in our guest. Good evening, Heather. How you doing?
Great, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. You probably heard us going on there about consumer rights and stuff, but it's unbelievable over here. The Irish mentality a lot of the time is, oh, well, okay, we'll just accept that. And I kind of refuse to accept that. We have consumer rights, we have constitutional rights, and you have to apply them. You know, so, and this is the issue. But anyway, that's sidetracking from why we have you on. Good evening, and thank you for coming on. We just give a quick intro. As people know, regular listeners to the show, we've had Kevin Annett on the show. And he does a lot of campaigning against kids that have been killed and abused in Canada, in the schools and various institutions over there. Now, there are people that are against Kevin because they disagree with what he's doing. And Heather is one of these ladies who has a campaign that is kind of against what Kevin is doing. So I don't know much about Heather's campaign, but we did kind of have a few emails between us. So Heather, do you want to give us a heads up what this is all about and why you kind of are kind of against Kevin and what he's doing?
Okay, sure. First of all, thanks for having me on your show. Secondly, I guess I should probably give a little bit of context about who I am and sort of how I came to get to know Kevin. I am not a young person. I'm embarking on my second go round at post-secondary education. I'm in fourth year nursing, and one of the things that I've learned in the nursing program is a little bit about social justice. I've also had the opportunity to work with First Nations children and adults in the healthcare setting, and so I've come to do a lot of self-reflection on my own personal biases about First Nations people in this country. And living in Saskatchewan, in Canada, we have a very large First Nations, Métis, and Inuit population. As of 2009, I think there was just over 129,000 self-declared First Nations people alone, not including Métis or Inuit people. So we have a large population of First Nations people, and it's very difficult when you live in a large city to not, come in contact with people who are not white, in particular First Nations people. Now in Saskatoon, we have approximately 250,000 people living in our city, and the core neighborhoods, which are on the west side of the river, have a huge population of First Nations people who are impoverished, live well below the minimum standard for the poverty line in this country, and are on welfare, have various health problems and that sort of thing. So that sort of brings to mind my context as far as what I know about First Nations people. Now, I've also been a little bit of an activist and have in the past sort of challenged the idea of, for instance, the H1N1 vaccine back in 2009. I had some concerns because I have a scientific background as well in biotechnology. I had some concerns about that vaccine and whether that was good for people and whether this would have been, really a pandemic we were experiencing. And so, I had gotten used to questioning sort of the status quo, questioning the government, questioning people who said I had to do this, that, or the other thing. So one of the things I wanted to do later on was have sort of a film festival. We have kind of an alternative media in this country that is starting to wake people up. And I wanted to bring some of the films that were produced by Canadian filmmakers to our small little town of about 250,000 people. And I was looking for films to showcase. And one of the films I'd come across was Kevin Annett's film, Unrepentant. And I thought, being that it, highlighted an Aboriginal original people's issue, I thought this would be great. And so I'd set up posters, and I was busy making arrangements and getting the theater all set up and getting film showing approval and all kind of stuff. And then a friend of mine had sent me some information saying, were you aware of the Circle of Justice letter? And I said, well, Circle of Justice letter, I have no idea what that is. And this person said, well, you better check into it before, you decide on showing this film. So I looked at this letter, which was written by people who had far better contact with Kevin, more history with Kevin than I'd ever had. And what they were saying is that they were basically condemning some of his behavior towards them and just in general how he was conducting himself as representing Aboriginal people in this country. So I questioned Kevin. I was in touch with him by email a little bit because I of course, needed his approval to show the film and had offered to sell some of his books and films, sort of at a table outside the film festival. And so I asked him about that, and he was quite dismissive and said, those people, they're all black operatives. They're, turned against me. They're working for the government. And I couldn't see it. I saw people who were genuinely hurt by the fact that he had taken their testimonies and published them in books and in film without their permission. And I had a real problem with that. From an ethical standpoint, if you're conducting some kind of research, you need to have ethical approval, from people who you're researching to publish their stories and to use any of their information. So that wasn't being done, and I had a real issue with that. So as I started to look into what Kevin was writing, I saw huge inconsistencies. I saw somebody who was very blatantly blowing things out of proportion, making, the RCMP out to be mass murderers, and hospitals were complicit in murdering people, and nurses were complicit in murdering people, and I just saw these huge tales that were being told, and yet no evidence that anybody had ever been charged for any crimes. And I thought, this is pretty outlandish. So I started a blog back in, I guess, about late July, and I just started taking everything he was doing apart piece by piece and examining it and seeing if it passed sort of the test of truth. And I'd like to say, first of all, I'm not the only person to have done this. There are other bloggers out there. Gregor Noof, who lives in Ontario, he's one of them. Ryan Ellison, he's another blogger. Ariel DeRocher, who's got a blog as well. So there's a few of us that have written, from various perspectives about their experience with Kevin. So that gives a little bit of context, at least.
Wow. Okay. And whereabouts are you now at the moment? I mean, what's the end game? What's the plan of attack with your campaign?
I think the most important thing is that right now he's running this international tribunal. He calls it a common law court, and yet any of the legal experts who I've talked to say that he is not complying with any part of common law precedents, common law procedures. So he's claiming it's a common law court, but he's not being transparent. He's not allowing cross-examination of his witnesses. He's named his witnesses, but has not provided any written evidence. Contrary to his claims that he is providing evidence, he has some video testimony from various people who say, this is what I saw. However, there's no cross-examination process. It's not a fair court. It's a kangaroo court, and he's just lacking in that transparency. And so he keeps promising, in 2 weeks I'm publishing this huge ream of information. You'll be able to see it on my site. And, he keeps dangling a carrot in front of people saying, this is coming up. You got to stay tuned. It's going to be epic. And then nothing happens. And then, a month later he says, oh, sorry, nothing happened. We've just been so swamped with all of the evidence. And, in 2 more weeks we're going to publish this huge, groundbreaking release and an article, and you'll see all this evidence. Well, now the website that is supposed to contain all this evidence is now no longer online. So there's nowhere for people to go except for the ITCCS website to find any of the evidence. So it's a problem in that, he keeps sort of pushing the envelopes, getting people's hopes up, and nothing actually happens. And the biggest problem I have has to do with his claims that he uncovered human remains at a residential school in Ontario, and that he sent those remains off to the Smithsonian Institute for testing, and that they were determined to not be human. Now that story, when he first started spinning it, was that, first of all, he hadn't mentioned anything about Smithsonian Institution. He had simply said that he had archaeologists on the site who had confirmed these were human bones, and that he had sent them somewhere down out west. He wouldn't say where. No one knew what had happened with them. And several months after that, after I myself and other people had started questioning him about these bones, then he jumped in and said, oh yeah, well, I sent them to Smithsonian, and I got a phone call back saying that it was these bones results were inconclusive. They were too tiny. The fragments were so small that they couldn't be analyzed. Now, Smithsonian is, the particular department that he claimed to have sent them to is responsible for forensic identification of, for instance, the remains that were found at the Pentagon on 9/11. Now, if you're able to analyze a tiny scrap, of clothing or a hair follicle and do a DNA analysis on a hair follicle, how would a bone fragment be too small? This, when you consider that he was on film at an Occupy Toronto rally pulling these very same said bones out of his pocket and waving them in the air saying, these are the bones of dead children excavated at the mush hole. So these were fairly large bones, which, on the terrible video quality, you could easily see they were, maybe 2.5, 3 inches across. So if those are the same fragments, then those were not too small to be tested. So his story has changed every time you ask him the story. Now he claims that the person who I was in touch with at Smithsonian, well, that's not the person who I was in contact with. Of course, this guy won't know anything because I was in touch with someone else. So he finally named who that person was. Well, that person's been deceased since April 29th of this year. So it's an ongoing problem that every time you try and press Kevin for any kind of factual information, some proof of what he's doing, that he changes his story. He'll just say whatever, off the cuff comment to get you to believe what he's saying. And he's constantly said that anybody can contact him and get the emails from this Dr. Owsley, this Dr. Ortner, who he has claimed he's talked to. Well, back in trying to think when it was that he had made this comment. It was several months ago. He'd said that in a couple of weeks he's going to be publishing those emails. Well, that never happened. So the end point, I think, for all of this is he just needs to get a job. He needs to get some of a real life, I guess, aside from using these poor people's, these victims' stories and their hardship as his platform for generating his income.
Okay, well, the question that comes to mind, and this has been a bit of a devil's advocate here, surely the fact that he's exposing that this has taken place, because I didn't know about it until I came across Kevin. So surely the fact that he's exposing it, he is doing something good, surely.
Yeah, that's the real double-edged sword with all this, is that absolutely there is a lot of truth in what he's saying. Certainly he's not the first person to ever, talk about this. There are plenty of First Nations scholars who write in journals and write books about it. You just need to go to a bookstore and head into the, First Nations or Aboriginal section of that bookstore in order to find people who are writing on this and who have been writing on this for 30 years. The problem is that nobody goes into that section of the bookstore, right? Why would we care? Why do we want to go into that part of the bookstore in the first place? Well, we don't until we have somebody who's, creating this melodrama, bringing in, a bunch of intrigue with claims that even some of these First people are somehow black operatives, and they're conducting a COINTELPRO MI6 kind of operation against him. That generates a lot of interest, especially in the last few years when you have people who are very interested in conspiracy theories, and that's a very popular thing. So,
okay, well, I'll tell you what, Heather.
Sure.
We have a call. We have a caller that wants to come in, and
we have Lydia on the line.
Lydia, okay, hang on a minute. We try and get Lydia on here. Right, Lydia, are you there? Oh.
Yes, indeed.
No.
Yeah, sorry. Are you there, Lydia?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Lydia, you have a question for Heather, do you?
Well, I wanted to comment on the question that just arose, which was, surely it's doing some good for Kevin and Annett to be heralding the unknown history to the world about the genocide of the children. That argument is something I'd very much like to speak to. It's a tired argument that is always spun by the Kevin and Annett supporters. I'm not saying that's what you're doing. It just is the argument that justifies this horrendous perpetuated against this horrendous exploitation against the people of the Western Hemisphere, the indigenous people here, and that argument needs to finally be spoken to once and for all, that it is not a valid argument.
Okay, well, the question that I'd have then is, what's in it for Kevin? Why is he doing it?
Well, Heather and I have, and Royce, my husband, who's sitting right here, who is the Indian, who of all of us is the only one who really has the right to speak and acknowledges that. He is full Oglala Lakota, so he's from Pine Indian Reservation. It is the United States, it's not Canada, but the indigenous people don't see a separation. White governments do, but in other words, whether he's Canadian or American, they see themselves as one group, as indigenous people of Turtle Island. So he can speak for Canadian issues as much as Canadian Indians can speak for, United States Indians issues.
Okay.
So the point is that no, and I am white, as you can hear, and I can turn you over to him, but he'd like to be heard. In reference to this, why is Kevin doing this? There's many reasons that Heather and I have distilled in a year, almost a year of working together and really finding out. In fact, who've known Kevin for 15 years, my husband and I, are just finding out the worst lies that Kevin has perpetrated. Why is he doing this? Heather is so qualified to answer that question. Why he's doing this is dimensional. There's personal reasons he's doing this, and I believe anyone is the agent. It is Kevin Annett. Kevin Annett is obviously working for the powers that be, the establishment. That is the big breaking sort of jaw-dropping shock to all the believers that he's the spear in the road. That's the godlike Messiah that's helping the innocent victims here and the dead children all dressed up as a priest. That's the clever design. He's doing everything but. He has harmed indigenous people in ways that would drop your jaws. And I would very much like to talk about that. And husband, we have hand evidence, facts, knowledge, because we live in Indian country. So, we really, really want to speak to this.
Okay, well, this is your platform to do it, and we don't have a problem if Heather doesn't mind either. Now, all we can do is be devil's advocate and to talk to you about what Kevin said to us. As as part of the media, we're not going to take sides either way because we want you to get your story across as much as Kevin wants to get his story across. So all we can do is say what Kevin said to us, and then you can tell us what you think of what he said. Now, one of the things Kevin did say to us was that there was now, as I say, this is not us speaking. This is what Kevin said. But Kevin said that there was abuse taking place inside the native tribes, the native people, and they wanted that covered up. So one of the things they want to do is kind of hide that and not expose that actually was taking place. And I think in all areas of society, regardless of what your nationality is or where you're from, there's always going to be bad apples in the barrel. I don't think that should spoil the whole the culture or the group or the people. But I think logically you'd have to understand that maybe there was, but you're going to get that everywhere no matter what. What do you think of him making that statement?
Well, that's part of the confusion. This genocide to my husband's people and my son's people, and I, by treaty rights of Fort Laramie of 1858 treaty, I am a Lakota woman by United Nations law, but by government-to-government status. Even though I'm white, I carry two citizenships. I'm an Oglala Lakota woman because of my marriage and my motherhood to our son. So I can speak on these issues as well, and I've been given permission to by the elders of Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, which is the iconic reservation where both did happened. And I'll turn it over to my husband in a second. This genocide is the most evil genocide in the history of the world, as certainly many scholars that are some of the most credible scholars in modern times have come forward and stated. Over 150 million people have died in the last 500 years since the Spanish arrived, since Columbus arrived. 150 million people were systematically exterminated. The schools are real. The schools in Canada are called the residential schools now, and down here they are called the boarding schools. They are, there's nothing unique about the boarding school system in any indigenous genocide. They're set up in Australia, they're set up in New Zealand, they're set up in Africa, they're set up in South America, and they're set up in North America and Canada. They all have one purpose. children, destroy them emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and most definitely culturally. And you, as Chivington here, who is a policy maker, said, nits make lice, meaning if there's no one to have the next generation, you exterminate people. And current policy, both in Canada and here, U.S. Indian policy, is the total elimination, extermination, and annihilation down to the last living native person. Total extermination. Hitler came here to study all genocidal tactics of the U.S. federal government to Indians in U.S. Indian policy to turn around and perpetrate it on the Jews in World War II. Hitler used the United States policy of extermination. It was so perfected. So that's a fact a lot of people don't know. Boarding schools were real. They were, this genocide was perpetrated by Euro white men against Native people, or you can say indigenous people. So one problem right away for the educated person in this world and in this reality, as I have been married for 20 years, I'm beginning to get educated one problem, the first red flag, when a white man comes along saying, I speak for the people that my race has decimated, there's your first red flag. It's never going to be the case that a white man is given permission to speak in any capacity. That's the first flag. And my husband, when we met Kevin and Annett, said, I will never talk to him, Lydia. But you can have a relationship with them because of your big heart, because of the truth is that the residential school atrocities did occur. Kevin sensationalizes them. However, they did occur. So I supported Kevin for 12 years before I was labeled a black op. I'm no more a black op than you are. I'm a mother. I'm a common woman. I have no website. Nobody's heard of me. I'm just a nobody. And I'm married. I'm a wife. So I don't have a career where I benefit or don't benefit. Anyway, to label me a black op is like labeling Mrs. Jones down the road, which is absurd. But there's a long list of 300, 400, 500 people at this point who are all normal people like me, including Heather Martin, that are good, honest human beings in Europe, in Australia, and many continents, North America and Canada, that are labeled black ops, including the original Circle of Justice. Now, when Kevin Annett goes around labeling the Native people themselves, especially elk, black ops or informants against him, then if you're versed at all in words or that level of journalism or exposure to a people under extermination policy, you realize right away that the person labeling the people under the genocide is the agent. It is the one that's there's something not right there. And for Kevin to be labeling the Circle of Justice, who were the original survivors, or the original tribunal that my husband and I were jurors for him to be labeling them, and all of them were labeled, and then most of them murdered. And that's when it gets really serious, because there's always a trail of murdered Indians wherever Kevin Annett goes. He himself says so. Only, of course, he's trying to twist the story, as always, to his benefit. So let me keep with one more point on him, which is the first red flag is that a white man's speaking. When you get to know Indian country the way I have, white men don't speak without that. No, it's a rare day that Indian community or nation will grant a white man to speak for them. Imagine that the English were speaking for the Irish. I mean, imagine that we have spokespeople from England saying, well, the Irish in the 800-year genocide, we're speaking for them. I mean, you guys would be outraged.
Well,
and you know exactly what I mean.
Well, Lydia,
You know?
we totally agree. At the moment, we're having Europe actually talking for the Irish, and we are outraged. We did have 800 years of repression, and that's why we can kind of understand to a certain extent the Native American people and what they went through, because we had 800 years of it ourselves here. And then in 100 years of having a republic, we've just given it back over to Europe. But what I want to do is I want to bring Heather in here. Heather, I want to get your take. Obviously, Lydia has a lot to say there. Do you want to talk about that as well, or do you want to add to what Lydia said?
Yeah, I guess if I can add to what Lydia said, the big problem is that Kevin never asked First Nations people permission to do that. He never said, you know, I'd like to speak for you. What would you like me to say on your behalf? It's called an expropriation of voice, and it's very common. And unfortunately, what he's doing is he's repeating the crime of colonialism all over again. So by saying, I'm going to go after the Pope, and I'm going to go after the Queen, and we're going to have this tribunal, and we're going to, you know, do it off the backs of 50,000 dead Indian children at residential schools. It's a huge disrespect. Huge disrespect. You know, he has no concept of how he's repeating history and re-victimizing the victims. He says, you know, I'm for me personally, that I am living in a delusional world, that I'm missing the boat, that I'm helping the enemy, that I'm siding with the pedophiles. Not at all. Not at all. What I truly believe is that if you are the victim, the only way you become the victor is if you reclaim your voice. And that's what's so wonderful about what's happening in our country right now with Idle No More, this movement, is that people are reclaiming their voice. They're saying, we don't want the government standing up and saying what's in our best interest. We will decide what's in our best interest. And, you know, Kevin made fun of that and you know, said that this was somehow, you know, a covert operation by capitalist interests. Well, of course say that because he's a Marxist. And he's going to miss the whole big picture because he's also a racist. So he is not supporting the efforts by the victims of these residential schools to have any kind of healing, to have true closure, to tell their stories. The big thing that First Nations people said themselves is that the only way we're going to heal from this is to abide by our traditional ways, and part of that is telling our story. We have to tell our story. So the government provided them a forum to tell their story. No, it's not perfect, but it still gave them a place to tell their story. So what does Kevin do? He sets up a tribunal where he collects all of these stories, and then he publishes them without people's permission. He violated their ability to heal. And that is what angers me, is that he takes people's trust in him and he discards it like it's worthless. And
he just uses it for his own purpose. Well, one of the things I want to say while Lydia is on as well, Lydia is talking about the genocide of the Native American people. And one thing, I don't know whether Lydia is aware and Heather you're aware, but the four peoples they want to actually to get rid of or affect globally are the Native American people, the Irish people, the South African people, and the Scottish people. And the reason why they want to get rid of us, or at least, you know, subdue us, is because them four races of people are known fighters, are known rebels, and they know we will fight back, because history has said that. History has showed us that we do fight, and that's why them four groups of people are being attacked. I mean, Ireland over here, we have been, with the austerity measures we're suffering, with, obviously chemtrails all over the place, but we have fluoridated water and we have high rates of cancer over here, unbelievable. So there's obviously a reason, and we know that they've talked about using Ireland as a stepping stone, as a model for the rest of Europe as well. So, obviously they want to affect the Irish, but so the Native American peoples as well will be affected by this. So, but the one thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is when Lydia talks about the white man, because, I'm a spiritual person, and I believe that we are spiritual beings experiencing life through physical form, end of. I don't see colour, I don't see creed, I just see people as people. That's the way I see it, and I know there's a lot of people out there are the same way. So it concerns me when Lydia talks about the white man. We are just human beings, and
could I answer to that?
Of course you can.
I completely agree with you, and I think what we're talking about here is a euphemism in the context of Native American colloquial language.
Okay.
The Native Americans, to this day, this is my blood family in Pine Ridge, use the term the white man. So I'm continuing the term as a euphemism, and in no way do I, or really then, or do they intend on perpetrating reverse racism, or it's the what these people have experienced in the horror of their genocide, which is something I live with every day, was perpetrated by people with white skin, and that doesn't in any way. And I'm not spiritually impacted, so of course I really want to emphasize that the white man is a soundbite of the enemy. And I understand that the real enemy is the same enemy that destroyed the indigenous people of Europe, that all the original peoples of the earth, that we all have one common enemy right to this moment, which sits at the top of the pyramid. So, I very much understand that humanity has one common, and I completely agree with everything you're saying. I agree with why the four groups are targeted. I believe it's also the depth of knowledge and spiritual power that threatens the Luciferian structure that is in fact in power of this planet. So the indigenous people and the great and spiritually empowered people of the island that we call Ireland today were so threatened to that system, which is probably 10,000 years old, if not older, but we can speak about pre-Diluvian because we have facts there, where we only have leftover legends and pieces of scriptures from around the world from before the flood. So I do know that Ireland has been under such a barrage of extermination policies. I believe it's spoken about enough that the powers in England equally shared information with Hitler, with the FBI here on their extermination policies, and other pre-FBI governmental agencies that were the military branch of exterminating. There were very similar programs of genocide perpetrated on your population as well as the native population, and many attempted allegiances with the Irish and the Shoshone and the Lakota, and you guys at times have been best friends under the same horror. So no, when I say white man, it's a euphemism. I'm not talking about you or Heather or me, because we're all white. In terms of, I'm not referring to us as at all, or any modern, dominant society genetically European people or descendants of them in America. What I'm speaking about is the mindset of the powers that be of the establishment that wants to perpetrate genocide. So I thank you for letting me clarify that.
No.
I know it was a bit long-winded, but this is a complex.
No, that's okay.
It's complex.
It's a complex, exactly. It's a complex subject, and we do have limited time. So, but I wanted to. I'm glad you clarified that as well, because it's something that I just thought it was kind of it was like them and us kind of thing, when we're all kind of in it together. Even like white people were being affected by it as well. But Steve, you have a question?
No, I was just going to say, I think we both know, and a lot of our listeners would know, that it was just a euphemism. I mean, I think we're all intelligent enough to understand that Lydia didn't actually mean the white man per se, that it is just a euphemism. I mean, you know that, I know that, but I can understand as well that just for clarity, you did need to get Lydia to just to clarify it.
Exactly. Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe the word might be, maybe this is an opportunity, or maybe a way that the word could be changed in a way that it's more user friendly. I'm not saying PC, but
user friendly.
It's just that saying that some people would see it not as a euphemism, but they'd see it as an insult. So on that basis, it might be an idea to look for another word rather than the white man. Because we do know that the cabal who are running things, are running the world and destroying the world, they're not all white. I'm sure there's other colours involved there as well, and other creeds and other religions involved there. They're an international group. So, that's the way we have to look at it, It's a cabal of multicultural people involved in the Illuminati, or whatever name you want to put on them. But we have about 10 minutes, ladies, so between yourself, Lydia, and Heather, is there anything that you want to put across to our listeners over here in Ireland, and obviously globally in Europe, to educate them about Kevin, and to say, look, don't believe us, but check X, Y, and Z. Is there anything that you want to say about that?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I think basically if you just Google his name, you'll be able to, read both his material and material written by other people who, like myself, have kind of dissected what he's been doing and what he's been writing, and you can see if it resonates with you or not. Obviously people have to use their own minds and revert back to critical thinking and see, if it fits with their heart and what they truly feel is going on, then obviously there isn't anything that I can say or do that will dissuade people. I've had lots of people comment on the blog who just, keep saying, well, show me the proof, show me the proof. My gosh, I've written, 70 some blog articles where I've, had screenshots of his actual words. I mean, how much more proof do you need if you can't say, all right, yeah, he lied about this, and here's a photo of his Facebook message saying exactly the opposite of what he said 3 weeks ago. Well, there isn't anything I can do that's going to change your mind. The biggest thing you have to realize is that, Kevin is human, like all of us, and I understand human beings are prone to making mistakes. I have accepted that in him, and I know that I'm as fallible as the next person. But I think if you distill it down to how is this serving First Nations people, original people in Canada and the U.S., are they reaping any benefit? And if the answer is no, they are not, then you have to question what he's doing and if it's helping. And that's basically what it boils down to. If he's soliciting donations and not doing anything positive with it, I'm sorry, that's con artists to me. And I've been conned. I've had 2 people in the last 2 years con me. And so I've gotten to recognize, the signs of a con artist. And the lying thing is the first thing. And the problem is he doesn't have to lie. That's what's so frustrating. He doesn't have to lie about this stuff because the historical evidence is there. He can just talk about the history and get people to follow him, and to read his writing.
Yeah.
But that's not good enough. He has to say, pull up a picture of a girl that he stole off of Wikipedia, a Bangladeshi girl with smallpox taken in 1973, and say, this is an American Indian girl with smallpox taken in 1910. I mean, he's insulting people's intelligence, and he doesn't have to do it. That's the problem. But somehow he can't help himself. He can't control that. And I don't know what the next best thing that he's moved on to is. He's setting up a whole new tribunal. Goodness knows what that's going to be about. It's we the jury something. And honestly, I'm at the point where I'm moving on. I think he's pretty much hung himself. At least in Canada here, there are very few First Nations people that even tolerate hearing his name. So I think he's pretty much worn out his welcome in this country.
Well, I know that he has contacts over here, and there's people working with him over here as well. So maybe this radio show is a good idea. So people in Ireland who are thinking to maybe support Kevin will have a think about it, and and do a bit more research before they make a decision. I'll give the final word to Lydia. Lydia, you have a final word there. What would you like to say?
Well, my husband, who is full-blood Lakota, the Indian, and I just ask that all Europeans that have had no contact directly with Indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere to listen to my husband, because this is who we're talking about. And Heather is considered by my husband to be the valuable friend and ally, and I'm considered by my husband to be the most valuable friend and ally. And your welcoming today would I know, and he will speak for himself, has proved you to be heartful, honest people that are allies, and people in war and under war have to have allies to attempt to survive. So let the Indian man speak for Indian people, and he can tell you about the leader and the voice of leadership of both Canada and North America is Dennis Banks. The most powerful leader today and historically has issued a cease and desist order to Kevin Annett, which Kevin, of course, wholeheartedly dismisses because he is a fraud, a sociopath, a pathological liar, and there are many reasons why he's doing this, none of which have to do with helping the very people he claims to help, but harming them, willing to perpetrate the genocide. So I turn it over to Royce if you'll have him. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, thanks a lot for both Heather and Lydia for coming on. I think what we'll do... Oh, okay, sorry, go ahead, Lydia. You want to put your husband on for a minute there, are you?
Okay. Yeah.
I'm a Dr. P. relatives. When I say my relatives, I mean the red, white, black, and yellow, 4 sacred colors of the universe.
Okay.
The four races, the 4 directions. My name is Royce Whitecap. I'm a member of the Oglala Lakota Nation. I'm a full-blooded American Indian. I'm a spokesperson for our people. I'm a spokesperson for the liberation of American Indians in this country. I'm a spokesperson for the broken treaties. I'm a spokesperson for the ongoing genocide of American Indians and Canadian Indians in both our countries. And I'm also an American Indian movement leader. The American Indian movement is a political organization that was founded in 1968 by Dennis Banks, Clyde Valcourt, Russell Means, Benet, and it's been the leading voice for American Indians for us taking back our voice in terms of us speaking for ourselves. So that this is where I take offense when Annett thinks that he speaks for us, and I'm talking about Kevin Annett does not speak for Indigenous peoples in the United States, in Turtle Island, or Canada, or around the world. I'm here as a full-blooded American Indian and an activist and a freedom fighter, and I'm here to say that Kevin Annett does not represent Indian Native people's voices in any capacity, whether it's economic, historical, intelligentsia, cultural, spiritual, or physical, or academic. He does not represent us in any capacity. I want the people of Ireland to know that. I want to shout. I want to go to the streets. I want to go on every top, every rooftop, in every home in America and around the world, and let the people of our sacred grandmothers, the earth, know that Kevin Annett does not speak for Indigenous people in any capacity, and by him continuing to think that he speaks for us is turned on the legacy of genocide here in the Americas and around the world. And I've been saying for quite a while for some time, since 1998 when we first met Kevin Annett. I never liked the guy. I always felt like he didn't represent us in any capacity, but my wife supported him, and I supported my wife. And I'm here to say, understand genocide. Understand genocide. If there's anybody who can understand genocide, it would be the people of Ireland.
Definitely.
Color white. The color white has been a death color to Indigenous people around the world. I'm to say that as Indigenous freedom fighter, that Kevin Annett does not speak for American Indians or Canadian Indians or any Indigenous person, Indigenous peoples around the planet.
That's brilliant that you've come out and said that. We do appreciate you coming on the show. I'm sorry we have run out of time, but we'll definitely, I think what we'll organise, Heather and Lydia and your husband, is to come on again, and we'll do a full show and we'll go more into detail. What I'd like you to do, Heather and Lydia and Lydia's husband, to keep us in touch and let us know what's going on, and maybe in a couple of months' time it'll be a good idea to come back on and give us a full interview of what's going on. Unfortunately, we do have another guest that we have to get on after now, but I will say a big thank you to everybody, to Heather, to Lydia and Lydia's husband for coming on the show and just clarifying the fact that Kevin is not representing the Native American people regarding what's going on over there, and we just want to clarify that. And our listeners obviously can play back the interview after the show and go through all the details if you've missed it. I'm just going to pass you over again. A big thank you for coming on, Steve. I'm going to pass you over to Steve. Steve's going to do the roundup, and then we'll take it from there. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's absolutely been very mind blowing. I mean, the information that's been coming across here, I've just been sitting here with my jaw open. It's great, good information. I mean, we did have an interview with Kevin, and Kevin said, well, he said what he said, but Lydia's take and also Heather's take on it is it's kind of, it's reading between the lines, if you like. It's really kind of showing it from a different angle, which is what we always try to do here. We show both sides. But in closing, I'm not sure. I think Lydia did say that she doesn't have any website or anything that she's just an ordinary woman. Well, I think ordinary is too small a word. She's not ordinary. She's doing a great job. But Heather, do you have a website or a link or an address where people can find out more about your work and what you're doing, so they can keep up with the whole situation?
Yeah, absolutely. The blog is called Kevin Annett Must Be Stopped, and it's at www.stopkevinannett.wordpress.com. And I think the link is actually on the page on OYM Ireland, so you might be able to post the link up there for listeners. And I put it also on the chat room. So
Brilliant stuff. Okay, Heather and Lydia, and I'm sorry, because of the actual quality of the line, I didn't get the Lydia's husband's name. Heather, can you give me Lydia's husband's name?
Yes, his name is Royce Whitecalf.
Royce Whitecalf. Okay, Royce, Lydia, and Heather, thanks a lot for coming on the show. Just stay with us there for a minute. We're going to go off to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMIreland.com, CNSradio.me.com, and ICRadioNetwork.com.
And we're back. Thank you for pointing at me. We're back. That was a little bit of Michael Jackson, Heal the World. Not the greatest Michael Jackson fan in the world, but, I thought that song was appropriate. Heal the World.
Oh, no, it's a good song. And that was good information before the break. I
can't believe we actually had a real live Native American Indian on the show.
Well, we've asked them to come back on maybe at the end of Feb, beginning March, and they said they're more happy to because there's loads more to talk about. So that's going to be interesting. Now, what we'd like to do is, our next guest is Colin. Now, we got sent an email off one of our listeners of this YouTube video of this guy driving around Ireland, putting these, what we found out to be Orgonite stones around telephone masts around Ireland. And we fondly, because we didn't know who he was, we fondly called him Organite Man. Like, not Superman, but Organite Man. And so we said, we put out the message, and our regular listeners now, we put the message out and said, if anybody can find out who this guy is, we'd like to get him on the show and talk to him and find out what he's doing and what Organite is, because we didn't know anything about it. So, and lo and behold, we did manage to get in touch with Colin. So, good evening, Colin. How are you doing?
Good evening.
Good evening. Now, Colin, this Organite thing, I've never heard of it before until I got this email from our listeners. And I found it quite interesting and fascinating because, as I said to you just while we're taking a break there, there's a mobile phone mast probably about 300 or 400 yards away from my house, and there's one not too far away from where Steve is. And if this Organite does what it says on the tin, I'll be getting a few stones off you because, anything to reduce the effects of a mobile phone mast is always a good thing. But before we go down that road, tell us about yourself, how you got involved with it, and, and obviously tell us about Organite.
How I got involved, how I found out about it is I started noticing chemtrails ago. And I kind of wanted to see was there a way of... I just started looking up on the internet about chemtrails, and I seen there was someone claiming to be able to dissolve chemtrails with this device he had in his garden. And this device was Organite, and it cost about €150 to make it. So I just said I'd take the chance to make the, it's called a Chembuster for dispersing chemtrails. So I danced and I made it. And the very first day I made it, I put it out in the garden. The chemtrails were dissolving, and a helicopter came and had a very low flight by right over my house, which really scared me at the beginning because I couldn't understand why that would have happened, how they would know about that I had the device or what was going on at that time. I kind of know a bit more about it now.
But would that just be a coincidence?
Yeah, well, I thought that, but I actually went away to Cap, and then 2 weeks later, and I had the device with me. I went into the middle of nowhere where there's a place I go sometimes. It's kind of a place I go to have a retreat and stuff. And I brought it with me, and I put it out, and within 20 minutes there was another helicopter, flew straight over again, very similar to the one that flew over me originally. Which could be a coincidence. Like, I wouldn't use the helicopters as a way of proving Organite works or anything like that, because anything can be a coincidence. But the effect it had on the chemtrails, dissolving the chemtrails and creating a blue sky, was the thing that kind of got me hooked on it, on Organite.
Now, what I've seen these chemtrail busters, and I don't know what they look like. There's copper tubes in a bucket of sand. But I could be wrong. I mean,
what it is, it's. I'll tell you a small bit about the history of Orgon
please,
energy.
Yeah.
Wilhelm Reich in the 1940s and 50s, he came up with a device to measure chi energy, Orgon energy, he called it, and Then he made a device to accumulate it called the Orgon accumulator, which accumulates chi energy from the area into a box that you could sit in, and it would have the effect on your cells of like kind of recharging your body and healing your cells, because it's a very good flow of chi energy. And one of the main problems in the world now is the chi energy is getting destroyed by microwave radiation, pollution, all sorts of things, you know. And and he also found a way to manipulate the weather by taking large amounts of Orgon energy, negative Orgon energy, out of the atmosphere, and you can create he created different weather patterns, and he stopped storms and also found ways to create rain in the desert. So he ended up going to jail because he broke injunctions. The FDA were trying to stop him from using the Orgon accumulators to heal people. So he ended up in jail, and he got murdered in jail. Lots of people believe by the government. But so this Organite is kind of stems from Wilhelm Reich. But the difference with the Orgon accumulator and the Organite is that the Organite, it's very small and it has a crystal in it, whereas Wilhelm Reich's was a big box and it had layers of metal and sheep's wool, which accumulated the chi. And so the Organite does the same thing. The principle is quite the same, except for the crystal in the middle of the Organite. When you squeeze a crystal, what happens is when the Organite is setting, it squeezes the crystal, and the crystal produces its own positive chi energy. So the metal and the resin together, they accumulate a negative and positive energy from around the area, and then the crystal being squeezed produces its own energy, which transforms any negative into positive energy. I don't know, are you getting all this?
I'm getting it, but I'm in the back of my mind, being kind of a logical thinker, is there any way this is being gauged? Is there any laboratory testing to actually see this happening, to prove that it's happening?
The thing is, you see, it's chi energy, it's a subtle energy, so science doesn't go looking into the chi energy, really. The proof, there's a lot of proof, you know, it stimulates crops grow better. You'd have things like it can help clean water, and the actual physical proof, it's more visual than a mechanical way of measuring it. Some people show devices on YouTube where they do claim to measure different frequencies coming from it or different wave patterns. I'm not too sure. I don't really know. I've never done it myself, you know. I've never gone to measure it myself, you know.
Obviously, and the thing is about chi energy, for people who probably are not aware of chi energy, this is what the Shaolin monks use when they're doing their feats of breaking wood over arms and standing on swords. They can move the chi energy around the body to protect themselves from doing that.
Yeah.
So
like Tai Chi. It's using the life force energy of the like.
Exactly.
It's kind of the energy behind everything.
Yeah, and the life force. I suppose for people who are into Star Wars, you know, they call the life force, let the force be with you. Now that's going a bit like too sci-fi, but the principle is the same. I reckon maybe when they did the movies that you know, George Lucas was using the force as chi. I mean, that's probably where he got it from. You know.
Quite possibly that kind of idea, you know.
Yeah, and I was watching a video on YouTube about this, and one guy was using this Orgonite to actually heal people as well.
Yeah, it would have a healing quality because it accumulates a lot of positive chi energy. So, you see, the main problem in the world at the moment is we don't have a proper flow of chi going through going through us or going through the earth, and it's blocked in many different places. Originally, chi was blocked by buildings. You know, a building could block the flow of chi, or like lots of churches would be built on very powerful places where there's a large concentration of chi. Also, stone circles and all that, they'd be more like harnessing the chi. But other buildings put to block it. the mobile phone masts are actually, the main reason for them is actually to keep the chi down very low. Because the thing is, they're using these, it's called weather weaponry. These mobile phone masts that are up on top of mountains. It's to deaden the energy so they can steer very large amounts of water into the country, or they can dry out the country. It's used for weather control. So they create a really dead environment, and then they can kind of control the weather with their radio wave frequencies. So that would be one thing the mobile phone masts are doing.
Well, let's look at the energy. Let's look at that from a scientific point of view, right? We know that microwaves work on 2.4 gigahertz, which is basically near enough. You know, in the microwave frequencies, anything over 300 megahertz is classed as microwave, and it's dangerous for you. Now, if a microwave works at 2.4 gigahertz, and their process of a microwave is to heat the water molecules in the food to cook the food, then that means that principally, if the telephone masts are broadcasting signals on the gigahertz frequencies, then they could technically manipulate the water as well.
Yeah, that's what they do. The thing is nowadays, we don't get much sunlight anymore in Ireland at any time really, and the reason is because when there's kind of a cloud formation, these wave patterns are coming from the hilltop arrays, I call them. And what it does is it turns the cloud into a uniform shape. If you look at the sky for about a year every single day, you start seeing what's really going on. And if you look at the sky when the sun isn't shining anymore, you can see uniform shapes of clouds. Like they're kind of they look more like a wave pattern than a natural cloud. They're not kind of up high in the sky. There's no blue around them. And that's one sign that there's weather weaponry being used. HARP technology is another word people use.
That's right. Well, I mean, I think that's, yeah, and I agree with you. I think it's obvious to a lot of people now these days that, you know, the old years ago, you know, say in the 80s when I was younger, you had clear blue skies with white fluffy clouds. Now it just seems to be, I mean, Steve, we talked about this, they seem to be just wispy clouds right across the sky, like some haze. You know, you don't seem to get like that solid blue sky anymore. And for whatever reason, you know, people are talking about, I mean, it's obvious the difference between a chemtrail and a contrail. So, now, I actually spoke to a family member who's involved with, you know, aircraft maintenance. And I showed them a video of a 747, probably about 37,000 feet up, spraying stuff. And I said, now, can you tell me that if that's from the engines? And she said, there's no way that's coming from an engine. You know, there's no way that's condensation from the aircraft engine. You know, so he was kind of surprised looking at that, but he's open-minded about it as well. And what I'm interested in is, how do you go about, I mean, for the sake of making it and trying it, it's not going to take much. So what do you do to go about, if people wanted to make a Chembuster, or they wanted to make these stones, what do they do, Colin?
Well, it's easy. You get fiberglass resin, general purpose, or you can get a clear casting one. It's you can just get it on eBay, or you can get it from a place in Northern Ireland. I think it's called MB Fiberglass. They're very reasonable rates. So you get your fiberglass. You get metal shavings from metal yards. It's quite easy to find them, or somewhere where they make windows that have aluminium shavings or brass. I use aluminium because it's cheap. And then you get a quartz crystal. That's kind of the most important part of it, to have the quartz crystal in it. So what you do is you just mix the resin, and then you pour the resin into maybe a cake tin or something like that that has the shavings in, and you have the crystal then in the middle of the shavings. There's loads of videos on the internet how to make it. It's very simple.
Okay.
It's a very easy thing.
Now, well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, there are a lot of videos on how to make it, and they talk about this resin. But I think it's always good from an Irish point of view, because if you had an Irish video saying, you go down to this store that's in Ireland, and this is the product they sell, and this is how you do it, like a tutorial, I think that's always going to be beneficial. Now, I think I would class you as a bit of an unsung hero, really. at the end of the day. And I'll tell you why, because I don't think people know that you're driving around Ireland and you're putting all these stones around the masts, unknowns to the people of Ireland, that you're trying to help them out. What is spurring you on to do this? Why are you doing it? Why are you doing, using your own time, your energy, and your money to do this?
Well, the destruction of what the chemtrails are doing, what the microwave radiation is doing, and stopping the sunlight and natural light getting through. And since I found out about it, I just feel like I can't not do it. It's like I just can't sit back. And originally I tried to get other people on board and tried to get help with it and stuff like that. It's hard for people's minds to be open towards it. It's quite a strange thing, you see. And but it's quite enjoyable. It's very enjoyable, Like I went out. I have a gifting video. It's what we're watching. It's called Organite Gifting Run Ireland. And me and my friend went out for the day, and we drove. I think we drove for about 16 hours or something like that. But we went to a lot of the hilltop arrays, and we gifted them, and we seen very, very good results. And I videoed it as well, So when you see things like that, when you see the sky coming back to a fluffy white cloud, and when you see a blue sky, and you see the chemtrails dissolving, and then the helicopters come out to check what's going on, it kind of almost gives you further proof, the clarification of the power of the Orgonite. It's it's just a great feeling, really,
Now, I'd be kind of curious with that, if I was, you're not doing anything, just let's get this right to the people. You're not doing anything to the mass, whatever. All you're doing is gifting, meaning that you're putting one of the Orgonite stones in the location of the mast, and that's it. So just in case people
they're not
saying,
really stones, they're just Orgonite, a lump of resin and metal and crystal. It's not really stone, but I suppose it could look like a stone though.
Yeah, but like doing your gifting, and it kind of would look like a stone from a distance, I suppose. But what I'd be interested in is, if I went to put one out and I seen a helicopter in the area, I'd have to get the old binoculars out and find out what it is, try and get the registration, and try and track down who it is. But that would just be me. Steve, you have a question?
I just two questions, Colin. One is one of the people on the chat just wrote up in relation to making the stones. They say steel wool will work as well. Obviously, if you can't get the aluminium filings, they're saying that the steel wool. And my own question is in relation to the crystal, because both Alan and I, in a different life, were involved in radio communications, and I know that you can get quartz crystals, and depending on how the crystal is cut, will affect what frequency this crystal will actually resonate on. Is there any particular crystal, or does it need to be cut for a particular frequency?
No, it can actually just be white quartz, the stuff you pick up off the ground. It doesn't have to be. Some people say a double terminated quartz crystal, which is a crystal with 2 points, one on either end, or a single pointed one, or some people just say you can just use white quartz from the ground. I actually put a double terminated crystal into every one of the Orgonites I make. It's just because I found a place to buy them very cheap, so I like to put in a bit of extra just to make sure, But no, it actually really doesn't matter. It's not really a fixed science as such.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, let's say for argument's sake, there are people who, like me, they're listening. They're not very good with their hands. They don't want to kind of get down and dirty. I'm not saying that you're selling these, but is there a way that maybe people that they could be maybe made for people for
donation
basis or
donation
something?
to you,
Well, I do make them and sell them myself, and I could give you my email address if people would like to contact me directly about it,
Well,
actually, I'm at the moment getting a website ready at the moment, which I'm in the process of doing, so I don't have it ready at the moment.
Okay, well, definitely let us know about that. That would be interesting, because I think, as I say, but in the back of my mind, the logical brain is saying, let me see the evidence. Let me see the evidence. I know it's very hard because it's chi energy, but look, at the end of the day, if you were to put one down in the mobile mast, or you use a chembuster, and all of a sudden these chemtrails faded away, you'd have to ask yourself the question: it must be doing something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, like when I put out the chembuster the first time, it was like very spectacular what happened. The weather went back to the way it was years ago. It was such a beautiful day, and I was like, all this stuff was happening. It was quite incredible. But they come down heavy on you. Then they start pumping out way more chemtrails, and they seem to turn up the frequency as well. They do their best to try and get rid of the opening that you're after creating in the atmosphere.
But I'd like to find out who is doing that. Who owns the helicopter? Is that an Irish registered helicopter? Where is it coming from?
They usually don't have any registration on them, and they fly really low and quick. It's very hard to get any information off them. I've tried so many times. I've got a few videos of them. I have a video of one hovering over my house after making a very powerful piece of Orgonite one day. And I went down to the shop, and when I came back, me and my girlfriend were in the car, and there was a helicopter hovering over our house. I have like a good few videos on my YouTube channel showing them, but they don't have registrations, and they move really fast. They try and keep away. And when you put a camera on them, they go straight away.
Okay, so we're to our listeners who wants the challenge to try and find out where and who owns these helicopters. If you want to get your Orgonite sorted and start putting them around local masts and stuff like that, and we'll try and track down who these helicopters are and where they come from. I mean, you must come from somewhere. They're only helicopters. They don't have a big fuel tank.
Yeah, they have to take off from somewhere and land somewhere. But that'd be very interesting, wouldn't it? If everyone who's listening was to even get one of the, we'll just call it a stone for the sake of, or even build one of the chembusters. If everyone was to do that. I mean, when you were saying Kevin, I'm sorry, I'm calling you Kevin. Sorry, I'm still in the last interview. Colin. If you're saying when you put this out, they turn up the frequency and they kind of start bombarding you with more of the negative energy from these chemtrails. Is there any way you can boost the power of the chembuster, or is it just a simple case of just making more chembusters?
The problem really. The main problem is the masts. The masts are the problem. Like at the moment, you could put out a lot of chembusters, but because the masts are causing so much dead energy, they need to be gifted first. Yeah. And you could have like loads and loads and loads of Orgonite in one place, and it won't make a huge difference. It's kind of seems to. The energy around the place, it gets to flowing again. It doesn't seem to accumulate more energy. It gets the energy that's in that area back to the way it used to be, back to a kind of a natural, healthy way. So it's kind of more about, it's not about quantity, it's more about where they're placed in certain areas, really. That
would be interesting getting, like, if you had, let's take a village, for example. So would you put one at each, say, the four corners of the village, for example, to try and, improve the chi energy in the village?
What I would do is I'd go to the masts, the mobile phone masts, because they're the ones, they're spitting out loads of DOR, dead Orgon energy, is what Willem Wright called it. It's dead energy. And when you put the Orgonite next to it, then it turns it back into positive energy, POR. So I go to all the mobile phone masts I have, and that's kind of what I always target. And I also put them in rivers, because when you put one in a river, it helps the chi flow and flow down the river, and it goes a long way, kind of,
Yeah. Well, here's the question. I mean, I do find that one gifted telephone mast and just one stone, if you want to call it that, can have that positive effect on the mast. I do find that,
just one piece of Organite, it weighs about 100 grams. To a mast that would probably have like maybe 6, 7 or 8 of those mobile phone things, those strips, those plastic, kind of a standard one. But the hilltop arrays, those ones on the mountains, I kind of focus on them quite a lot. And then I make very powerful ones, quite big pieces. Well, not that big. They weigh about half a kg, and they'd be the size of a funnel. It's actually, they're made out of funnels.
Yeah.
So
that's very interesting.
The interesting thing about Organite is that you don't need a huge amount to. That's the thing, that's another thing for people to kind of. It's hard to understand it because you only need quite a small amount for it to be quite effective, which seems kind of, it doesn't seem to add up but just small amounts does a big area.
Well, maybe for people who can get their hands on the equipment, a tutorial video on your website would be very good, Colin, to do that.
I have 2 videos on my website showing. One is how to build a Chembuster, and the other one is how to build it's called How to Build a Very Powerful HHG. It's a nickname for an Orgonite. Someone called it a holy grenade as a joke, so it's kind of stuck with that name. And so that's one I've made. That's kind of a really special one, and but I haven't. I'll put up a video actually of making just small ones. I might do that in the next few days.
So,
just a basic video.
If I was to build, say, a chemtrail buster, is all I would have to do is leave it in my garden, and that's it, nothing else? Some people like to move them around because it actually causes more problems, like for the, I suppose, the New World Order, if you call them that, these the Shadow Army government, whoever they are. Because when you move around Organite, it kind of confuses them a bit. I know in Dublin, there's 2 Chembusters there already, and there's one in Meath as well. So there's a few Chembusters around Dublin. Right. Okay. Well, and this equipment that you can if you're making your own, it's fairly cheap, is it?
It's okay if you're making the ones to do the mass, the tower busters. It's relatively reasonable. The amount that I've made, it has become quite expensive. Like, I've spent a lot of money because I'm doing as much as an area as I can. But if you just wanted to do your local town, you could get enough. In 50 euros, you could make maybe 50 or 60 euros. You could make 50 TBs, tower busters, and you cover quite a bit of an area with that. You could do a small city with that,
Well, no, I think maybe that's something that we should look into, Steve, as part of the targeted individual thing. Colin, a question for you regarding the Orgonite. I've watched a video about a guy talking about the healing properties of Orgonite and people wearing pendants and stuff like that with Orgonite. I mean, have you come across? Myself and Steve have a kind of an interest in targeted individuals. It's something that we're going to be doing as soon as we sort out the location. We're going to be offering scanning. Now, if an Orgonite pendant or something like that could be given to them to help reduce the effects of them being targeted in any way, I mean, is there any tests on that?
Are you talking about people who are targeted?
Well, people who are potentially either microchipped or they're targeted individuals, as in domestic terrorism. Do you know about targeted? Do you know about targeted individuals?
Yeah, I know different aspects about being kind of attacked, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, basically, from a technological point of view and a psychological point of view, you're being attacked using certain technologies. The powers that be, you can be put on a list, and thousands of people around the world are being affected and targeted like this.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking maybe this Orgonite might be a way to, even if it has a small effect of reducing the effects of being targeted, and might help.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. I've had experiences of this kind of thing myself since I started doing the gifting, and it helped. And I found that there's actually a device that can be made that's there's a frequency put through it. It's called a source punch. And that really helps to create kind of quite a large area around you where tracking doesn't work around it, and they're quite some people find them very successful products to use if you're having that kind of problem.
Okay, well, I think what we need to do, Colin, is we need to talk again in more detail, and I think we need to probably do a full interview on this, and maybe talk off air, and see if we can come to some kind of arrangement between the two of us that we can help each other and help the listeners. For people who want to make their own, that's fine. For people who can't make their own for whatever reason, that they can get them off you. So I think there's definitely going to be a benefit here for people, even with the targeted individuals. Even if it helps a little bit, it's something, you know. Yeah,
it definitely helps a small bit. There's a group in Africa who make these things. They're relatively cheap for the effect they give you. It's very helpful. I could give you their email or what is it, their website, if you want. Yeah, well, what we're going to do is we've reached that time of the interview. But one thing I'd like to say to our listeners, and this is, I know we talked about certain websites, Colin. This is nothing got to do with the websites we talked about, but on a separate website for people who want to check the locations of their mobile phone masts and where they are. If you go over to comreg.ie, which is the... Do you know, it might be not so... You know, that website, I wouldn't advertise it too much. Well, this is a different one to your one. Okay. I'm not going to mention... Yeah, I'm not going to mention your one. One of my worries would be that... I think the one you're talking about is one that I actually use, you know. One of my worries would be if that website got tampered with, it would really block the gifting movement, you know. Right. Well, I see. And then what? Yeah. You know, maybe if people want to find out, if they could email me and I could give them a link to where to get all the material and where to get the information on where they find their local ones, you know. Yeah. Okay. It's just a fear I have, you know, because it's so beneficial for me at the moment. I'm not too sure. Could they tamper with it or would they, you know? Yeah. Well, see, I was careful in checking your site compared to this site, and they are two different sites. But if you don't want me to mention even that site, well, then I won't say anything about it. Maybe not at the moment. Because what I'm actually in the process of doing, I'm actually in the process of recording where all of them are. And when I'm finished, it doesn't matter because I'll have where every one of them are. But if I went out to look at this website and they were gone, it would cause so much. It would make a big obstacle, you know. Okay, because this is a different website to your one. But not to worry, I won't mention any more about the website. And then when we have it sorted, and dagger stuff. I'll tell you, I like it. All right, Colin. Well, listen, thanks for coming on. We're going to have to get you back on, Colin, and we're going to have to get an update and get the information. But for now, I'm going to pass you over to Steve. Steve's going to get all your details off you. We're not going to get all his details. We're not going to get all your details. We're just going to... I'm going to give them to the Black Ops helicopter that flies over. Well, I know you did say, Colin, that your website is kind of a work in progress at the moment. It's not up and running. Yeah, I should have it done in a few weeks, I'm sure. Right. Well, when you have that done, if you send us on the link, we'll stick the link up on our website so people can contact you and communicate with you. Is any information that you want to give us thus far where people can find out more about what you're actually doing? Like I think you did say you had a YouTube channel, did you? Yeah. So will I give out my email address? It would be in case people want to contact me directly for getting some devices off me. If you want to do that, yeah, shoot away. Yeah. So my email address is Colham, COLHAM 1980 @gmail.com. Okay. So if anyone that find out where to get the material, I can give them all the links because I've done so much research. I can find where the best prices are. I have all, so I can give links through that. And also, if they want to buy from me, I can show them. I can send them an email with all the stuff I have for sale at the moment. Brilliant. Okay, that's fair enough. That's great. Well, Colin, thanks a lot for coming on. And listen, the YouTube channel, Organite Gifting Run Ireland, that's quite interesting because it actually shows the effects on the sky after we gifted one of the masts, which might be interesting to some people. You can see that the sky goes back to a natural formation of cumulus clouds, so that's quite interesting one to watch.
Brilliant. Well, hopefully we've woken some people up to Organite who never even heard of it or didn't know what it was, because we didn't know about it. Thanks for doing what you're doing. As I say, I know you've been going around Ireland doing this, and it's sort of a bit of an unsung hero. So thanks for doing that on behalf of everybody, because I don't think people realise you were going around and doing that. And we'll get you on again. And definitely have a more in-depth discussion about it, and do a catch-up, and hopefully the website will be launched. But again, thanks, Colin, for coming on, and we'll talk to you. We'll be talking to you soon anyway.
Great.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, okay, that was Colin, and he was talking about Orgonite, and very, very interesting. Very cloak and dagger, I know, but, I suppose we better not give out the information until Colin has his bits and pieces done that he needs to do. But I'd definitely, for one, be happy for the sake of €5, getting an Organite stone and putting it beside the mast where I live and probably where Steve lives. And as you say, you're not doing anything. You're not breaking an entry or doing anything like that. All you're doing is putting it right where the mast is, or near where the mast is.
Do you know what? Well, obviously questions that didn't get to ask. But I'd be very interested, as you know, what I've done, because you've done the same in relation to the Wi-Fi router. Both Alan and I have our Wi-Fi switched off. Everything that's connected up to the internet is hardwired, to reduce effects of the Wi-Fi. And it'd be I notice this sometimes on my phone, and even on my wife's laptop, it does pick up Wi-Fi from other sources, like the neighbour's house, and it'd be just interesting to see if maybe one of these, we're going to call them stones. I think Organite stones is give it a name, then we all know what we're talking about. If we were to have maybe one of those in the home as well, I wonder would that deaden or even change the negative effects of these Wi-Fi signals. That'll be one to look into as well, because we did have a conversation with someone else before many moons ago, and I can't remember who it was, unfortunately, but there was some class of a stone or a crystal that you could put beside the router that would absorb the negative,
that's right,
the bad energy, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. We did talk about that, and we heard about that. It's a way of doing it as well. But I like the Organite. I like the idea of the Organite, and if you can make it stuff yourself.
Yeah, from what we've seen, it seems fairly easy to make. I mean, you know as well as I do, people can say, "Oh, that'll never work," but and I know, and everyone out there who listens to domestic radio, you get a crystal. Okay, there's a little bit more involved than just a crystal, but you can just get a crystal, cut it to a certain size, a certain frequency, and put power through this crystal, and it will resonate on like an FM radio. So I mean, a crystal, it does have power.
Yeah,
so I mean, who's to say that with the magnetic fields or energy from the earth, you make this concoction of a few different elements, you put them together in a certain ratio. Who's to say it doesn't work? I mean,
well, yeah,
suck it and see, as you say.
We know that crystals have a lot of energy we're not aware of. How are you on the chat facility says buckyballs, and I say no, it's just the way I'm sitting. I don't know.
Oh God.
Sorry, I know that's a buckyballs are American. I don't know what they are. Oh, we've lost it. Oh, we've got 2 minutes to go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please, come on.
Okay, let's get serious. Okay.
Be professional. Be professional.
Okay.
Buckyballs.
Very quickly next week.
He was being serious.
I know you were being serious, but I don't know what they are.
We did hear about them before, and it was on a previous show where we heard about the crystals or the stones in relation to the Wi-Fi routers. We did. It's an American. That was an American thing. These buckyballs and
yeah. What a name!
Even the sound of it. Yeah. No, I know. We know you're being serious.
Yeah. No, we know, but we don't know what they are. We'll find out. We'll have to find out during the week and find out what they are. Next week, our guest is Neil Saunders regarding mind control. Neil was on last year, and he's given us an update. He was recently on a Richard D. Hall Rich Planet show. Very interesting. He's going to be talking more about the Jimmy Savile stuff and the psychology with Max Clifford and things that went on that you actually don't know about, that he found out and then has investigated. So next week is going to be a really good show. So stay tuned. But for now, good night from myself, Alan James. Stay safe. And if there's any news, by all means, send us an email, let us know, and we'll be able to hopefully talk about it next week on the show. But for the time being, take care and good night.
Thanks very much. Buckyballs. Okay, that's Alan's new pet name, Buckyballs. I'm on Buckyballs. Right, okay, sorry. I'm not sure who's on with Vin tonight, but it's just tipping 9 o'clock now. So if you want more of the same, tnsradio.ning.com. Stay tuned. Vim will be there in the hot seat to keep you entertained for the rest of the evening. We're going to do it again next week. So for myself, Stephen George as well, we'll catch you in 7 days. Good night.